Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Purposeful Conversations with me, Emee, here in the PAMI Code Facebook community. And I know inside our community, we've been talking a lot about emotional intelligence. We've been talking about mindset, the importance of resilience, and so on. But what I've noticed is that most of the things that we're talking about these things in our adult life. But really, we really need to start early. We really need to be able to develop these skills at a young age, if not, in our early adulthood. So I thought I'd reach out to someone who knows about how we can help our children or the teenagers or the young adults in our lives, so we can help them to develop emotional intelligence so they can thrive later in life. So without further ado, let's all welcome young adult life coach, teacher, and counselor Joey Mascio. Hi, Joey. How are you?
I'm doing great, Emmy. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
I'm really interested in this conversation because with me being a psychologist, I mean, this is something that I'm quite passionate about. I mean, when we talk about resilience and emotional intelligence, a little bit later on in our adult life, my mind goes back. It's like, we should be having these discussions early on, as children or teenagers and young adults, to build these skills early on. But before we get into that discussion, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and how did you get into this field?
Yeah, of course. So currently, I am a middle school teacher and counselor where I actually work in the discipline office with students. And I volunteered for that position. That was something that became available. And I went to my principal and I was like, hey, I'd like to be in that room. And she was like, I'm sorry, what now? You want to be there? I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to try it out because I feel like I could reach teens and really kind of give it a shot. And so she's like, yeah, have at it. And I got in there and they immediately became my beta testers. I just started working with them and I really enjoyed it. And before long, I had like a wait list of students who wanted to come in and talk with me about either conflict resolution or what's going on. And it was just really rewarding. So um, outside of that, I teach theater. So I'm the drama teacher at school. And we put on the plays, and that's my background is working with teens and performing on many areas. I actually worked at Disneyland as a performer for almost a decade, and it was just absolutely amazing. So I really love being on stage, making people laugh, performing, and I like to incorporate that in what I do with the young adults that I work with.
I love it. It sounds like you're such a colorful personality, and I can just imagine all those, young people really connecting with you at that level and being, having those chats with you. For example, I assume that you will have chats around bullying and some behavior issues, maybe, as you've said, some conflict. So, what are some of the issues that you encounter in your day-to-day practice, and how do you think this is related with emotional intelligence?
So a lot of the issues that I encounter are people feeling attacked by others. So when it comes to the work I do at school, it's a lot of people saying either the teacher is creating um, an unfairness in my life, or another student is doing something to me, and I can't control other people, so this is just the worst. Or things at home are just like X, Y, and Z. And therefore, because of what's going on outside of me, it necessitates a certain reaction from inside of me. And that is what it all boils down to. And that is something that I immediately work on with both teens at work and then teens and young adults in my coaching practice, is being able to separate out facts about just life and the story that we tell ourselves that all these facts mean. Because generally they have this story in their minds based on all these thoughts about what it means. If a teacher says this, or a peer says that, or if my family life is like this, then it just means that I'm stuck. I'm in a horrible place. I have less than other people have, or whatever that story is. And then they just believe it. They don't even question it. They just go
They
right
just
into believing.
accept it as it is.
Yeah, exactly. And they just accept it. And when I start to point it out, you know that that's a choice, right? You don't have to view your circumstances as you are. I mean, you can if you want, by all means, like keep doing it. But if you don't like it, you know you can change that. And that's
Yeah, and
really the,
having that awareness, it's actually quite empowering. And when you said that you actually differentiate between the fact, it's like what's actually happening and what's going on inside their head. You can, yeah, you can see if their thoughts, their beliefs, that would actually have an impact on how they feel and eventually how they behave. But you actually do need to understand what's going on inside your head and see if that's actually translated in reality.
yeah, definitely. There's a cognitive awareness that brings a whole lot of power with it.
Okay, so that's something that you facilitate this with the young people that you work with. How do they how does that look like in practice? Give us an example, a particular case study if you like, where you're able to apply some of these techniques to resolve a particular scenario.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest one that I'm always working with students on is unfairness with a teacher, specifically subs. Right, substitute teachers are like, oh, they're just the worst, and whenever they are sub for my class, is just, and so when a kid gets sent out, for example, there was this student who got sent out and he was wearing his hood. And that's why he got sent out. It was a very
Mm.
old school teacher who said, take off your hood. And the student said, nope. And he said, I need you to take it off. He said, nope. And he said, get out. And he just kicked him right out. So he came to me about 4 days in a row from that particular teacher. He just, nope, not taking off my hood, get out. And he wouldn't want to talk at first, but eventually I was able to sit down with him and go, okay, what's going on? And he would say, oh, well, Mr. So-and-so just doesn't like me. He just doesn't like me. I go, okay, do you think that's true? Well,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. And of course, he just 100% thought that was true. I said, well, why? Well, because he just like sends me out. And he's all right. And then in working with this particular student about just questioning whether or not that teacher liked him or not, I offered, well, what if him liking you has nothing to do with it?
Mm.
I mean, what if there's something else going on in his brain, right? And so just offering that first.
The
And then I said,
other
okay,
perspective, yes.
yeah, other perspective, which I think is helpful, but never where I get the most traction,
Mm-hmm.
because we can dream all day what we think about is going on in somebody else's head. So then I start there because usually that's where a teen is. They're like, somebody else hates me and that's the problem. So once I go, well, maybe he doesn't, we don't know, right? Then I start looking into what's going on in his brain. I'm like, all right, so what do you like? Why don't you want to take off the hood? Let's, like what? And he just was, well, I mean, I don't like people telling me what to do.
Mm.
I was like, oh, okay. So, like, what is that doing for you? Sitting there and thinking other people shouldn't tell me what to do, right? Like that's not, it's not their place. It's not a big deal. Just leave me alone. I'm being treated unfairly. It was all these thoughts. And I was like, cool. And I wrote them all up on the board. And I was like, what is that?
All
What is
of
that
the
doing for
thoughts yeah, so you're actually taking out the thoughts to make it quite explicit so you can actually interpret it and analyze it in the real world. It's like what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then after I kind of put it all there, I always let them know. I let them know these are all still very much an option. You can continue to do that, but let's see what would happen, right? Like, how does that make you feel
Mm.
when you say, "Oh man, I'm being taken advantage of," or "He's treating me unfairly." I think that was this student's particular. I'm being
Mm.
treated unfairly. He's like, "Well,
And it's not just with the teachers. I can imagine this with parents a lot, especially with teenagers, right? It's so
oh yeah,
unfair. Life is
yeah,
so unfair.
yeah," and that the emotion that usually drives is anger. Well, it just makes me
Mm.
mad. Well, what do you do when you're angry? Well, I don't want to listen to him, right? He talks back, or he doesn't talk at all by like just like shutting him off, and all those things led him to being sent in with me.
Mm.
And I said, and your result is going to be you are creating a relationship with this teacher where you don't like him
Mm.
because you're thinking that he's being treated or that he's treating you unfairly. So by thinking he's treating you unfairly, you're mad and uh, you're not responding in an appropriate way, or you're not uh, talking calmly. You're doing all these other things, and you are creating a hostile relationship with
Yeah.
this teacher.
Yeah.
And you can keep doing that if you'd like, but that takes the power away from you, being like, no, he's creating a hostile relationship. I'm like, okay, you can totally think that, but what if you're creating a hostile relationship?
Mm.
What if that's very much in your power to change?
To
And
shift that.
yeah. And so it's just introducing that idea that you have power. And a lot of them want to push back in that moment and go, no, well, like, but I could do that. And then he's going to walk all over me. And that's always what comes next, is this fear that if I give up that thought that it's their fault, and if I say I could do things to change and start making decisions that I want to do and become the person I want to be, because this kid he was a good kid, right? I mean, like,
Mm.
quote
Mm.
unquote good, like he got good grades, he wants to be
He
a
just wants to have control, maybe, and not to be told. Yeah, he did say that he doesn't want to
yeah,
be told what to do.
he doesn't want to be told what's going on. But what if you just got rid of that story? I don't want to be told. What if it was okay for you to be told what's going on, right?
Mm.
Like, to be told what to do. What if, like, the story that follows through, well, people tell me what to do, they're going to walk all over you, all that
You
might
can
not be
choose. you
real.
you have
Yeah.
that choice. And I think what you are sharing with us has a lot of parallels with what we actually teach, with life coaching with adults, that your thoughts influence your feelings, your emotions, and your feelings actually influence your behavior, and therefore will influence your relationship with others. And as you were going through the conversation that you had with that young person, it reminded me of the TLC technique. When we have the inner critic messages in our mind, we ask three questions. Is it true? Is it logical? Is it constructive? And the first thing that you ask us, because he said, oh, he just doesn't like me. And the first question you asked was, is it true? Is it true? It's actually, I can see the parallels, but you dealing with young people and with us dealing with adults, it has the same principles of understanding the beliefs, understanding the thoughts that influence our behaviors, and our emotion that eventually has consequences in the real world. And I actually just wanted to ask, when you go through this process, and when the young people actually manage to dissect and have those different perspective that you are offering, how long does that take to get them to see another perspective, or just letting go of control, or just having a shift in their mindset? How long does that take?
It takes just about as long as it does with adults, because it varies, right? Just as it does with adults, where it varies. Some push back, some are really closed off. I've had teens that have accepted it in the very first conversation. I have teens that are like, oh, yeah, no, totally. Like, no, I agree with that, yes. And then they'll go, but, and then they'll throw on everything
And
else,
other things.
other things of why that principle I introduced isn't actually effective or doesn't work in this scenario. That they don't think it works for other people. It's a true principle outside of me, but inside of me, that's not how it works. And then I got to work with them for a little bit longer, and then some students push back a lot.
Mm.
So I have a client now in my personal business. That his mom really wanted him to sign up with me. He's 18 years old, senior in high school, and she really wanted him to work with, and he is not on board. And I generally tell parents, I only work with teens who want to be worked with. I'm not one of
Mm.
those
To be
drill
forced.
sergeants,
Yeah.
yeah, to force them in, because it just doesn't work, right? But she's like,
Mm.
no, and she got him to agree. And so he is very much taking the whole, oh yeah, no, I know all that, everything's totally fine, everything's great, and I know this is going to be a tough nut to crack, and I'm just going to have to love him exactly where he is, work with him, and it's going to take a while. So it ranges. Some are ready for it right away, and some start making great progress. Others recognize it, hold on to it, and then have trouble applying it, which
Mm.
I think is key in all of it. And then some just don't even want it, though they want change. They don't want to believe what I'm telling them is true.
Yeah. What do you think are the barriers to what prevents young people from being open to other perspectives? Because yeah, as you've said, there are those who are, who just adopt it easily, and others, there's so much resistance, if you like. Where does that come from, and how do you resolve that?
Well, it really comes from two areas. One would be they don't want to accept a different perspective because they don't believe another one is accurate. Right? They're like, no, this is how it is. This is either how I was raised or how it just life is, and you don't get it. This is how it is. And then the other one is they actually have a more of a subconscious view or story of life that they're not even aware of yet. And that one is a little trickier because um, they have to become aware of it first.
Mm,
And I have to sit down and ask them lots of questions. Well, why? I call it the 5 levels of why.
you just
You
go
know,
deeper and deeper. You
yeah,
just
and I
keep peeling the layers.
exactly like a common one with students that I work with is, well, I don't respect people who don't respect me.
Mm,
And I
okay.
go, okay, why? And well, because I'm not going to just, like you can't just go around treating people like that. They'll walk all over you, and I go, they'll
Why?
like, why would they walk all over you? Well, because people out there, and then we generally it gets to, because people are messed up, right?
Okay.
Some version of that. And I go, interesting. Okay, is that true? All right, like let's look at that. I love that TLC thing too. Is that true? Is that logical? Right? Is that a constructive?
Constructive, yeah, because there
Right?
are consequences to how you respond to it. So
Yeah.
how do you make these thoughts constructive? Because there are times when, yeah, it might be true, it might be logical, but it might be destructive.
Right.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
you
it's
have
great
to
because like,
explore that.
yeah, and when we explore, I go, well, how does that make you? How does that make you feel? Thinking people are just messed up.
Mm,
It makes me feel horrible. All right. When you feel horrible, how do you show up in that moment when you're interacting with a parent, teacher, or peer? How do you show up? Well, I mean, I generally tell people off. I don't open up to people. I this and that. I'm like, okay, that those actions that you're taking is creating a result where I am acting like the horrible version of a person that I think are out there. Like I am creating this horribleness in my life of shutting people off and all that is stemming from that base thought of people are horrible, which
mm.
might not even be true and definitely isn't constructive.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's really important that we're able to explore these thoughts and just keep asking. I wonder if some of your the young people that you work with get annoyed with you asking why all the time. You're like a 5-year old. It's like, why, daddy? Why? It's like, why? Do they get annoyed when you keep asking that, or it just becomes part of a natural conversation?
It becomes a part of a natural conversation. That's something I learned early on. Different ways to ask why, right? Well, yeah. What does that mean to you? Like, what do you make that mean? Is that, or like, why? Why do you think they do that? Right. That's another way to discover some of
Mm,
their thoughts. And I work with them, and I make a very conversationalist with them. Like that's something that I pride myself in, is the ability to connect with young people. I mean, my background is performance and comedy, so I throw a lot of humor into it, and I find that humor, even when we're talking about something very serious, as being bullied, or anything else, or I've coached teens who were like, "Hey, I walk past these boys on my way to class, and they touch me," right? And I'm like, "Oh, hey, and I mean." And obviously in education, the first thing I do is I'm like, okay, well, I have to report this now. Like this is
yes.
the legal side of things. Yeah. But then going into why haven't you said anything to them, to your parents, to, whoever? Like, why not? Like, this is the reason why you're late to class. And you got
Mm.
sent in here because you were late to class, like every day for the past 3 weeks. So why have you not said anything to anybody? And really going in with that, and even using humor in such an area where they feel is really serious, helps them to open up and discover the reason why they're not taking action. And then that's up to you. Like, I mean, I recommend you take some action here and report it to somebody, right? You just reported it to me. Let's
Mm.
report it to other people so this can be taken care of, rather than the thought that's leading you to retreat, to hide, to feel shame or embarrassed. All that's unnecessary. And so I find using humor in that area, especially when I'm asking
Mm.
why, with something as serious as that, really helps them to open up.
So it
Uh,
helps to lighten it up a little bit, because
yeah,
sometimes, yeah, sometimes when you dig deeper and keep asking those probing why questions, because usually the core issues are really quite deep. It's quite difficult to talk about, and it just manifests superficially. That's why you keep digging. But as you've said, using humor, being able to connect the thoughts with how you feel as well, and the consequences of your behavior, can be quite empowering. And that's why I would say it's also tied in with this thing around emotional intelligence, because being aware how your thoughts influence your feelings, and how that manifests into behavior, and being aware of the full range of emotions that you have. We're not always happy. Sometimes things makes us angry, and it's okay as long as you're aware that that's how it makes you feel. How do you work through that with young people? How do you help them to become more aware of the range of emotions that they are feeling? Because I suspect that there are some young people who are not allowed to be angry, or are not allowed to feel sad, because it's a quote unquote bad emotion. How do you help how do you help them to embrace the full range of emotions that they can experience?
yeah, definitely. That's a key tool to be able to know how to do, is to be able to process your emotions. So that's something I work with my clients on, is processing their emotions. And there's several steps to processing your emotion. First is naming it. What are you feeling? Even,
Mm.
right? Like,
What
what
is
is
that?
it? And being able to name it is crucial. And I have this uh, quiz, this Google form that helps them kind of identify it. Is it one of these four? Awesome. Click on that. Cool. Now, based on that, could you break it down more as into one of these? I use the emotion wheel
Yeah.
to break that down, right? So that's one way. And then in that, I teach them what an emotion actually is. I'm
Mm.
like, an emotion is just a vibration in your body. The word emotion comes from energy
Motion.
in motion, right? Yeah,
Mm.
and
Yes,
it blew
yes.
my mind when I learned that.
Energy
Oh
and
yeah,
it's a vibration. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
why you
just a
feel it. It's a sensation, right? You feel it.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, that's just crazy. That's like hippie stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, but listen, right? When we talk about emotions, how do we talk about it? Oh, I got butterflies in my stomach, right? Oh, my head was hot with anger, right? I'm just so nervous that I'm like tingling all over or whatever, right? And all that, I'm like, it's just energy
Yeah.
showing up in your body, and that's all it is. And it can't hurt you, and it comes from thoughts in your brain, and your
Mm.
brain sends them out, right? So let's just, once we discover what that is, and then once you name the one you're feeling, you can identify it in your body. All right. Well, you're angry. Where do you feel that? Oh man, I feel it behind my ears.
Mm.
Cool. All right. Like, give it a shape, give it a color, give it a texture, give it a weight, like, give it all that. And then the most important step is to allow it to be there.
Yeah.
A lot of the pain and anguish that we all experience, whether you're a young adult or whether you're just an adult, is not allowing our emotions. Feeling angry that we're feeling angry, or feeling frustrated that we're feeling frustrated. And then we start stacking our emotions, and it just becomes worse. I once had a student who's brought into me, she had just got attacked by somebody else, right? It was a fight. Girl fights are big in middle school.
Oh
And so,
dear.
yeah, she got brought in and her friend was with her and they sat down in my office and she's breathing really heavily. And her
Mm.
friend's like, oh no, she's having an anxiety attack. She always has anxiety. She's having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I sat down, I said, oh, that's great. And I sat down and the look she gave me was just like I was absolutely insane. Like,
Mm.
what? And through her
I'm having
breathing,
a panic
yeah.
attack.
I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. Let's have this right now, huh? Let's embrace
Okay.
this. And I didn't go the traditional. It was funny because as she was walking through the office, everyone was
Mm.
like, just calm down, sweetie. Just calm down. All right, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And she sat down. I said, don't calm down. Let's just
Experience it.
experience it. Right. And the first thing I taught her how to breathe. I said, just breathe in
Yeah.
through the nose, out
And
through the
out the
mouth.
mouth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I did that. And then I said, and let's be okay with having this panic attack.
Yeah.
Right. And it's way different than going, oh, okay, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Oh, no, let's freak out.
Yeah. Experience it. Feel the sensation. This is what a panic attack feels like.
Yeah,
So when you experience it again, you actually know what it is.
exactly. And you're not fighting against it because that takes so much
Mm.
energy to
Yeah.
fight against it. And that's true with anything, fighting against anger, fighting against sadness, or fighting against whatever. I mean, try to fight against happiness. Nobody would try to fight against it, but it would take a lot of energy, to do that, to stop yourself from being
When you're
happy.
happy and try to be sad, it's like I have
Right.
to feel sad right now.
Yeah, it's counter. So instead, allow it to be there. And then the last step is just to give it time,
Mm.
and it will dissipate in time.
I love that. That's really
Mm.
interesting. It's quite unusual. And for me as well, when I have like friends or students actually who are feeling anxious or feeling angry and upset, and I wouldn't tell them that, oh, don't worry, everything is going to be okay. Don't worry. It's like, okay, just embrace that, just understand that this happens, and you just be aware of where this emotion is coming from, and it will pass eventually, but experience the full range of human emotions, and that's what makes us human, right? And being aware, having that awareness of this range of emotions makes us more, shall we say, when you are feeling sad and you're experiencing sadness, and when you realize that you do need help, you realize that actually it's okay to also ask for help, because there's no stigma in it already, but you recognize that this is how you're feeling, and if you're struggling to get yourself unstuck, then you're more able to reach out for help, because you need it. But
Yeah,
emotional awareness is really important. You need to know what it is that you're feeling.
it's the thought that there's nothing wrong with you, right? That's something that, and it's big in young people, right? Like, I mean, all the way into their 20s, they're thinking, well, I must be broken
Mm,
if I'm feeling this level of anxiety, or if I feel this, or if I'm super emotional with relationships, or if I'm whatever, I must be broken. And I
mm.
go, or you must be working just fine,
Yeah, it's part of being
right?
human. Yeah.
uh,
And I usually have this discussion with my husband as well. So for example, we have a 5-year-old, and we're trying to help him regulate his screen time. So we have timers, like he only has like 20 minutes at a time to watch whatever he wants to watch, and after 20 minutes, it's over. And for the first couple of rounds, 20 minutes up, he goes crazy. It's like, throw a tantrum and so on and so forth. And my husband is saying, it's like, oh no, this is unacceptable. This is not allowed. He throws tantrums, blah, blah, blah. And I would say, look, it's normal to feel angry. Obviously, he's upset. But eventually, he will learn over time that after 20 minutes, it's over. Next time, he can watch it again. It's okay to feel angry, because you took something pleasurable away from him. So
yeah,
let him understand that this is how it is to be angry. We are not happy that he is angry, but it will pass. And just let him experience that, and we are okay with that. So I don't know if this is something that, for me as a psychologist, I'm testing what's going on. But now we don't really have fights anymore. After 20 minutes, he knows that it's done. He knows that his screen time is done, and no tantrums anymore. But initially, he lets loose. He was angry, first couple of rounds, and I said, it's fine, calm down. I calm my husband down. I tell him, it's okay. He's experiencing anger. This is part of the human emotion, and eventually he will learn that he doesn't really have to be angry because he will get screen time again tomorrow or something like that. So,
Yeah.
Joey, I have to ask, when it comes to emotional intelligence, and there are some things I know that are missing in the traditional educational system. Is there anything that you've noticed, especially since you are working in that context? And is there anything that we can do to rectify this, to help more children and young adults to become more emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent?
Yeah, definitely. First off, I have to recognize that social emotional intelligence is really big in education in a very small way. They recognize it, they know it's important. There are programs out there, it's there, but it's all auxiliary. It's all extra. It's all on the outside of what the actual education system is built for,
Mm,
which is the hard skills of math, science, reading, writing. That's what school is built for. It was never designed for emotional intelligence. So whenever it's brought in a really secondary or even tertiary way, where it's on posters all
yeah.
over classrooms, or it's on banners, or it's even part of the mantras, right? The big thing is the positive behavior intervention system, right? PBIS, that's big at my school. I'm actually the coordinator of it, and things like accepting a no answer and being able to like regulate emotions, and there's all these other mantras and things, but that's usually as far as it goes. There is no training on it. There are no classes or courses, even at the college level. They're just not there. There might be psychology and whatnot, but it rarely is there a class that says, hey, sit down, we're going to train you how to handle your own emotions. Here are some tools and techniques that you can do. Classes like that do not exist in the high school level. And if they exist in the college level, it's very special and very rare,
Mm,
because it's all about training you how to go out and do a hard skill. Plus, it's really difficult to measure these soft skills.
mm-hmm.
So how would you create a class around it when a the big drive of a lot of education, unfortunately, are numbers, right? And I mean, it's unfortunate, but it makes sense, because you have to be able to manage or measure the success of a system. So, like,
Yeah.
I get it. So they're like, it's very easy to have a grade for, do you know science, or do you
Mm,
know how to write a paragraph? Super hard to measure and give a grade for the ability to have these social emotional skills. So if there was a solution for this that existed within the education system, it would be adding a class that taught these crucial skills.
yeah.
It would be having one that was either mandatory or at least was an option for kids to sign up for and take. Oh yeah, I definitely need that. And to do it in a way where it didn't become the blacklisted class. Oh, you have
Yeah.
the mentally crazy class, good luck with that, right? It would have to be pitched in such a positive,
Life
like,
skills and, yeah, success mindset or something like
well,
that.
exactly, yeah. And that's why the program I have, I call it crucial life skills. And because at the beginning I started using phrases like, oh, helping those who are experiencing anxiety, or who are being bullied, or who are insecure,
Mm.
or things like that, and that just repelled
It's
people.
negatively
Yeah.
framed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super negative and all that. Oh my gosh. So I did this whole restructuring of it, where it's like, dude, let's work on these 5 crucial skills to get you to where you can succeed at high levels. You can be absolutely happy. That's why the podcast I have is called Secrets for an Awesome Life, because
Mm.
it's all positive. It's just so fun, and it's supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And yes, it will deal with some of those more tough or sad, depressing things, but it'll also help you accomplish all the goals in life, make all the friends you want to make, become, if you want to become popular, it'll help you become popular. If you want to become the smartest kid in this class, it will help you get there. All these skills, these soft skills, will magnify the hard skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic when they're combined. It's a multiplier. And I would love for all administration to know that you need to spend more time than you think on these soft skills, because you will get more out of the hard skills from your students.
Absolutely. I have to agree. But I have to say, because I came out from a non-traditional school. I came out from a non-graded system. So we didn't have grades in the
Lucky.
school. In our school, we just had lessons, and we had like we will take a test, and if we administer our own test, we study, we take a test whenever we're ready, we mark our own test, we have like the answer key. If we fail, it's okay, take another set whenever you're ready. So it's building our soft skills in such a way that failure is okay. There's resilience, there's this self-mastery, self-pacing, and all that. But I can understand why it can't be adopted more widely yet, because I think we were also experimental at that point. But
That
you
sounds
know,
amazing.
yeah, oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. I mean, it helped me to become less risk averse, if you like, because I will test something out. If I fail, I can try again.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. And I take in our school at that time, you take the test whenever you're ready, and you move at your own pace. So it was sort of embedding the soft skills um into the curriculum with and embedding it into the hard, the literacy, numeracy skills that we have to develop. But the soft skills are also being developed in that way. But I guess, in the traditional sense, like having a course for like success and life skills, I think it's really important. And if we can start it at a young age, instead of just being a poster on the wall, or, just being part of the mantra, to actually have it as part of the program, I think would be absolutely amazing. But
Yeah.
Joey, I really appreciate this conversation that we had. If you have any final words that you'd like to share with our audience in terms of helping young people to thrive in life, what sort of skills they need to develop to have more emotional intelligence and to thrive in life, what do you have to say to them?
Yeah, definitely. So, uh, if you are someone who works with a young adult, teens to 20s, figure out a way where you can be okay with exactly where they are right now. That's usually the first thing I do when I coach parents of teens, is get to a place where you are okay exactly where they are right now. Learn some of these skills yourself. Keep listening to Emee, right? And taking what she's teaching you, and then apply to your own life first, and then go from there. And then if you're looking for something to take your young adult through, I have my program. It's a 3-month program called Crucial Life Skills. And it teaches specifically 5 crucial skills that are social emotional skills that are missing from education. I make it fun. They can win rewards for participating, completing challenges. There's fun, entertaining videos. Excuse me. There's fun, entertaining videos that are in there, and I work with them one-on-one on in coaching workshops, and I take them through learning and applying these skills to their real life. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to my website, which is firmlyfounded.com/crucial skills, to kind of learn more about that program. And if not, keep listening, like I said, to Emee. You can send your teen over to my podcast, which is Secrets for an Awesome Life. And they can kind of just learn by listening to the stories that I tell and the principles that I teach in there. It's incredibly helpful and will just change their life going into adulthood. Because something that you said, Emee, is like, adults are working on this, and some people think young adults or teens can't do it, or their brains aren't ready for it. That's not always true.
Hmm.
Some are ready for it, and some would benefit greatly by starting this at a younger age than being in their late 20s or 30s.
And build the skills for life, certainly. And I will leave your links in the description, so if people want to connect with you and check out your program, they can do so, by visiting your website. And it's really, I really enjoyed our conversation, and it's certainly for me as a psychologist, it's actually quite refreshing to have this talk, not talking from a, I'm talking from an adult's perspective because my clients are adults, but really the same principles apply when working with teens and young adults. We actually have to treat them as human beings with a full range of emotions, who already have thoughts that can influence their emotions, and that can influence their behaviors and their interactions with other people. So thank you very much, Joey, for joining us today. And for those of you who want to connect with Joey, I'll leave the link in the description if you want to connect with him. So that's it. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch up again next time for another purposeful conversations with me, Emmy, here in the Pamicode Facebook group. Until then, take care and bye for now. Bye.
Bye.